principles that not only will help you navigate through your relationship, but just life overall, right? That's why I love fundamental principles, and that's why Ben and I always talk about it when we talk to people, because if you build your relationship on that, then your relationship won't shift and it won't move with the inevitable, unpredictable challenges of life that it's going to bring to you. All right, so one of the principles that, oh my gosh, when I heard this quote, it absolutely changed my life. And when I tell you it will help you in your relationships, yes, absolutely. First of all, I'm going to put it out there. It is a quote. I did not come up with it. Oftentimes I'll say things that I do come up with on here, but this quote I did not come up with. And, I probably should have looked at it. I think it's an anonymous one. I'm not sure. But you know what? I'm going to go on my computer and see that so I can give whoever said it the credit so that they can get it, because that quote is the bomb. Okay, so yeah, I thought so. All right, so they said the origination of it is not certain, but the way that I heard about it was through Simon Sinek. How you do anything is how you do everything. What do you guys think that quote means when you hear it? You guys know I'm always saying on the podcast that you're always in a relationship. There's no one here walking this earth that can say they're not in a relationship right now. I always say you're in a relationship with yourself, you're in a relationship with God, you're in a relationship with how you relate to life circumstances, right? Or time and change, right? Life is really all about that, how we're responding, how we're relating, and how those challenges and circumstances that come to us challenge us to either know who we are or forget who we are, etc. How you do anything is how you do everything. Yes. So one of the reasons why I always say that you're always in a relationship is that quote can also support that idea, that mentality. Really not an idea, that's really the truth. Like you're always in a relationship. I always say that you're always in a relationship because people sometimes will tend to separate how or what kind of relationship they have with their family members, with how they deal with their coworkers, friends, etc., and feel like once they get into an intimate relationship, they're going to act different. Why? Because they feel like it's going to require different things from them. Now, don't get me wrong, a marriage does, being in a person who you decide to have a long, live this life journey with you, it's different. It ain't like you go to work and you can come home from those people at work, right? You have that person. So don't get me wrong, that is true. But no matter what, just like when we were talking about the things that you're great at, the only reason you would be great at those things is because there's some kind of a character or nature about you that allows you to exemplify the greatness that's within you. So I always tell people, like, especially for those people who say, I'm single, this doesn't, what you're talking about, it has nothing to do with me right now because I'm not in a physical relationship with another, intimate physical relationship with another person. And I would say that's not true because you want to prepare, because trust me, how you're functioning right now is going to go into your relationship that you go into. And that's, quote, changed everything that I do. I'm on Voicey and there's so many different examples that I can use where that quote, the principle of it showed to be right every single time. I can give you two examples of where that showed up in my life. I remember a couple of years ago, in a beautiful time in our life, that my sister-in-law lived right next door to us, and my mother-in-law was living with us. And so it was really great because I was doing a lot of acting auditions and things like that. And I can go, have an on-deck babysitter for my daughter. I only had one daughter at that time. It was such a beautiful time. And I remember after I decided to kind of take a break from the auditions to kind of figure out what my purpose was, because I was running all around town doing all these auditions, trying to fulfill my dreams and not realizing I was being busy and not really getting anywhere. So I sat my behind down and read some books and just really kind of honed in and focused on me and my daughter, of course. And I remember during that phase, or a little shortly after that phase, Ben was teaching, but he got laid off. And when he got laid off, before he got laid off, and I was, trying to figure out what I was going to do, I would be in the house, and you guys know, Shantavia, they know me, Shantae knows me. You can come to my house, you might find me in like a poppin' red lip. I might be dressed up It's not a thing. I don't dress based on if I'm going somewhere. I just dress on how I feel on that certain day, right? And so my sister-in-law, sometimes my friends would come and they'd be like, why are you, are you only going from the kitchen to your living room, da da da, why are you all dressed up like this? There's no reason for you to be like this. And I would say, well, I'm dressed up for how I feel. I don't dress based on someone else's judgment of what I feel, what I should be looking at because I'm at home. Like as if there's a dress code of how you're supposed to look when you're at home, right? So, but to make, the story shorter, is that fast forward after my husband gets laid off, he decides to start his own business in the house. And then after he builds the business, guess what? We have so many people coming in and out of our house now that imagine if I was all just caught up in some sweatpants, looking all moppity, right? It would have been a whole new adjustment for me, right? Because I would be like, oh my gosh, these people, because they have to come into our house. And at that time, we didn't even have a bathroom downstairs. So any clients that my husband, had, they would have to come upstairs at any given, moment. Of course, he would let me know. But the point is that God was already preparing me to make sure that I was already in a certain state that if people were coming in and out of our house, that I would be okay. You know what I mean? But the point is that I wasn't saying, okay, well, when I'm at home, this is how I want to be. And and don't get me wrong, not everybody is like that. That's just me. That's my nature. That's my character. I don't, that's just who I am. How you do everything is, how you do anything is how you do everything. But for me, it helped in that process, because if I was not doing that, it would have been a harder adjustment now for me to be like, oh my gosh, all these people are in my house. And so the second example of how that also worked is, I'm on, because of COVID-19, I haven't been able to perform out in a while. And, my husband told me about this app, Voicey, so that I can just continue to write every day and keep it fresh, so that when it is time for me to go back out and perform, then I'll have basically new material to perform. And so on this app, it's basically people at home. So you have people in their bonnets, singing, or just a tank top in their bed. You do not have to dress up, basically, right? You do not have to put it on. But of course, me, right? I gotta make sure I look okay on this app. You know what I mean? Because for me, I know that at some point, right? Hopefully, God willing, that COVID-19 will this phase that we're in will get through this transition, and I'll be back out performing. So if I say, oh well, I'm just home on this Voicey app, I don't need to be the same way that I would be, or do my vocals or present it in a way that I would if I was performing on a stage in front of people, right? So imagine if I'm gonna have a bonnet at home, with a robe on, saying I'm singing on Voicey, and then the people who seen me on this app now is gonna come to my show and gonna be like, that's the same girl. It's the same girl. She had a bonnet on her head and da da da. You know what I mean? Because I know that whatever I'm doing, I wanted to cultivate me as a performer overall. I can't just say, oh, well, this is just me writing a song. I don't need to, because then it's not gonna, when the season just does change and I can now perform on stage, then it's gonna be harder for me now to get back to the type of mentality that I need to be in to actually give out a full throttle, and then don't get me wrong, it's still not the same. I'm not, it'd be different if I was in a concert, because then I'll be able to move and, change and things like that. But as much as I can bring to it, I do. So though that's very, of course, not on deeper levels, but they're just tangible examples to show you that wherever you go, bring all of that to the table. So I say that to say that it also works when it comes to relationships, because if you're considering how you're dealing with your friends, how you're dealing with your boss or co-workers, and you're saying, okay, these tendencies that I have with them, whether it's you're at a job and you're afraid to ask for a pay raise, or you're afraid to say directly what it is that you want. If you have friends that you can't speak directly to, for whatever reason, it's not good for you to say, okay, that's really just because that's my friend and maybe that, hopefully you're not saying this, that relationship doesn't matter that much. When I'm in an intimate relationship, that's different. I'm going to do it differently because I'm going to know that this person is going to be the one that I'm going to be with for a lifetime. So I'm going to approach it differently. No, we have to understand that how you do anything is how you do everything. And also practice makes permanent. So whatever you're doing right now, whatever characteristics and tendencies that you have that you're doing now, it is going to seep into the relationship that you have. So that's why I'm always saying that you are in a relationship. I don't care if you're single, if you're not thinking about being in a relationship with somebody, you are in a relationship because you have a relationship with yourself every single day. We deal with ourselves in a certain way every day. Some people walk around suppressing their emotions. No one knows the conversations that they're having intimately within their own space. But guess who knows? Their body memory. God knows. And then those hiccups and those challenges get presented in the relationship now when they're presented to try to harmonize with another individual. They've been so used to in their own space suppressing their own thoughts and their own emotions and their own feelings. And they think maybe when they put that only if I had someone to listen to me, then I would be able to express what it is that I need to say. But it's not. That's not how it works, because how you do anything is how you do everything. That completely changed my life because I just started getting convicted about everything I was doing. I just started getting convicted to see if I was, I guess diminishing some of or repressing some of my values and maybe some of the things that, I would need to bring to whatever it is that I'm doing to make sure that I'm 100% invested in what I'm doing. I'm 100% bringing me to the table. So I just try to integrate it the best way I can. So for example, a tangible daily type of thing. And I know sometimes depending on where you are, there's people who will call me super spiritual for some of the things that I do. But like I said, I can't live on this plane because then I'd be overtaken by the things that are going on, because there's so much going on in the world and there's so much of the negative that's being put to us. We so many of us were shocked by Chadwick Boseman's sudden death for us, but he knew it was coming and his family did. But what it reminds me of is like, okay, like I make sure and which is always a prayer for me, is something that he said too, is that I want to make sure that when I get, I'm presented in front of God, that he says, okay, you exhausted all your potential. You exhausted all your talents and your gifts that he gave me. And for me, I think about it often because I'm multi-talented. It ain't like I just got one, he didn't give me that one talent. He gave me a couple of talents. So I'm always thinking about that. I'm making sure that I'm doing, but I can't do that if my character, just like the question we talked about tonight, if somebody asks you what you're great at, what would you tell them? And honestly, when I thought about that question in my head, I'm like, I can't say that I'm great at singing, even though some people would say that, but I wouldn't say that, because there's so many other people that I look up to, that I strive to work on some of their techniques and things like that. There's really nothing on the outward that I could really say that I'm great at, but the character things and the way that I connect, to God on a spiritual level and try to tune into that spiritual intelligence. That's one of the things that I would say, God, thank you. I feel like I'm great at that because it's afforded for supernatural things to occur in my life that I can just testify time and time and time again has happened. And I would rather that, because at least that transcends this plane, because we clearly know that this is a transitional phase that we're going through. Everything here is temporary. Even the most fulfilling experiences are temporary. So if I'm going to think about being great at anything, it has to start with, to me, the supernatural intelligence. It has to start with the spirit. It has to be able to connect heaven to earth, because the rest of it, it is fleeting. So that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, okay. And I laughed at myself when I said it to myself, like, oh yeah, I can let go. Like, what kind of, that ain't nothing to be great at, Sharla. But that's what, but it is, because you know how many people, it's hard when life challenges and things and trauma and circumstances, situations and circumstances bring trauma into their life, how hard it is to let go. And that sits in their body and it sits in their being. and they cannot get out of it. So it is like one of the greatest gifts God gave me, to be able to do that and still see the good in life and still be able to make an impact. Yeah, it completely changed my life. And before I went all the way on a tangent, I said a tangible thing that might sound super spiritual to some people, depending on where they're at, is that I can put it on a simple level, like even cleaning. I hate cleaning. That's one of the most, if there's something that I don't like, domestic, cleaning and cooking, those two things would be on my list, right? But for me to get into the type of mind state where, I'm not like taking it like it's drudgery to me, I'm praying while I'm cleaning, because I literally feel it. I'm like, God, clean my heart as I clean this dirty house, clean my heart. And it helps me do it. But again, that's me bringing a certain heart posture to what I'm doing, because I'm not saying, oh, well, this is me cleaning my house versus me being on the stage. You know what I mean? Or imagine if you're in a long time marriage, and how you start in the beginning is now different from how you honor the person years and years later. That also comes into play, right? Because it's the same thing. How you do anything is how you do everything. So please understand that just like this life is playing ground, if you believe, for the next life, for heaven, that whatever stage of relationship you're in is preparing you for the life partner that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And the circumstance and the situation should not dictate how you respond to it or who you are. You should be bringing who you are to everything you're doing, to the greatest capacity level. And that way, that quote will be actually realized in your life, and how you do anything will be how you do everything. It's blessed me in my life. So whether I have one person on here or no person on here, or hundreds, thousands of people listening to me, I'm still going to bring the same sincerity, the same presence, the same truth. The numbers don't matter. What matters is how obedient I am for whatever God told me to do, and the message that I have to bring. So that's also another example of how you do anything is how you do everything. So, and that also makes you not focus on the audience. I think that's what the gift it gave me, is it freed me up from thinking about other people's judgments about what I was doing, because I was so, more so focused on the sincerity of my heart and what I had to do in bringing that it didn't matter whether I had empty seats or a packed house. I was still going to bring the same type of power to it. So pour whatever God gave into you into serving others in this life, and giving whatever it is that you have to offer, because someone needs it. We all need each other at some point.